Farms. There's been a really tough time for farmers with inheritance tax going up and a lot of farm closures. But today is such an important day for the wider community in terms of farmers. They provide delicious food on Christmas Day, but it's been a tough time for them, hasn't it?
It has indeed. I mean, look, we in this country have around 191,000 farms. Around 300,000 people are employed in farming, contributing about 15 billion to the economy, other than, of course, the food that we put on our tables. But look, farmers are the backbone of Britain. Let's be honest, and they have been for centuries. And I think this inheritance tax that Labour imposed on farms has led to 6,200 of them closing in the last year. And that's a real indictment of where we are as a country under this government. But more importantly, it's the local communities that farmers, help instill a real sense of being local and
essential to their communities. We heard from Dan Willis, a farmer, in the last hour, talking about the work they've done with charities. And Diane, these are the highest number of closures since records began in 2017. So it's not that long, but the numbers are stark: 6,200. It's a tough wicket to defend if you're a Labour Party figure, isn't it?
Yeah, not all of these, of course, are because of the inheritance tax. So, we've had real problems on the price of milk, and we know we've also been losing farms for that reason. It's not to say it's good.
Energy costs have doubled.
We shouldn't say this is all down to that. But I just want to take up what you've just said. I mean, when you think about what we're sitting down to today, turkeys mostly from Britain, Brussels sprouts, potatoes. I'm not sure about the cranberry sauce, but the bread sauce. It is very much British food, which of course is why it's such a tradition that we eat British food. So I'm delighted that Emma Reynolds, who is a very, very sharp lady, she got into this job and she listened. I have to say, I think it's much better if we've made a mistake that we change. One of the stories that all politicians remember was Mrs. Thatcher not changing over the poll tax, even when everyone knew she'd made a mistake. So I think it's absolutely great that Emma has said, I think we got this wrong, and has changed. So I think our farmers will be pleased, but even more, of course, our consumers will be pleased because they're having a rough time because the cost of food is going up still. So we need our farmers to produce good food and reliable food.
There's nothing more important than keeping your money and your identity safe online. And with so many VPN options available, choosing the right one can be pretty daunting. But this video's sponsor, ExpressVPN, is making the choice easier for GB News viewers. ExpressVPN is offering up to 75% off, plus 4 extra months free. That's top-level security from just £2.49 a month, and you're covered by their 30-day money-back guarantee. So just click the link in this video's description or scan the QR code now. Remember, when you're online, you are often sharing personal data, so hackers can steal your information, your passwords, your photos, and your bank details in just seconds. But ExpressVPN encrypts your connection, making it virtually impossible for hackers to access your personal information. So why choose ExpressVPN? Well, it couldn't be easier to use. With just one click, you are protected. And ExpressVPN uses military-grade AES 256 encryption, which is the same standard trusted by the US government to guard their classified information. With their new tiered plans, you can protect up to 14 devices at once and manage passwords securely. Live chat support is available 24/7, and it typically connects you in under a minute with a real person. Click the link in this video's description or scan the QR code to get up to 75% off ExpressVPN, plus 4 months extra for free. Start protecting yourself today.
It's a security issue, isn't it, Aman? We're hearing from Victoria Atkins, the Shadow Environment Secretary, saying defence spending, that's not just about missiles and ships and soldiers and all the rest of it. Food security is a vital part of our national resilience.
Absolutely, and the more food we produce within the country, the better it is for. It's just common sense. Food security, the supply chains of food. Let's break down a bit. Now we have all sorts of exotic, produce available on our shelves throughout the year, and that of course means supply chains all the way from North Africa, from India, from Spain. But what we don't have is control over those supply chains. And that means that if anything happens elsewhere in the world, in terms of geopolitics, in terms of war, all that gets impacted. I mean, we saw what happened with the supply of sunflower oil from Ukraine. It was the biggest producer of that, and wheat as well. But more than that, I think, let's be honest, the Labour government imposed this tax because it was ideologically driven. That, you know, they wanted to punish people who had holdings and money more than £1 million. So with ideology, it was, I mean, the fact that it's been U-turned in such a diminutive way that, you know, the announcement came on, Christmas Eve. Well, they got it wrong, but why was it there in the first place?
So on that point, the Environment Secretary, Emma Reynolds, has said that farmers are at the heart of our food and security and environment and the local community and how important they are. But leading up to this, there were hundreds of farm closures. So why do you think that they have suddenly made this U-turn?
Well, they made the U-turn because it's the right thing to do. But I think the interesting thing is why was it there in the first place? And it wasn't ideological. People say, you know, Labour doesn't like rich people. It wasn't about that. Sadly, what happens occasionally, a few people twist the rules. So some people were buying a farm not to continue to farm it. So you were passing it on tax-free and then they were selling it with no intention of carry on farming. And it's very sad sometimes. A few people do that for tax reasons. And then, you know, we were looking and saying, oh, well, this is ludicrous that you can pass it on tax-free and then that person then sells it, makes a lot of money.
Yeah,
that was the reason that it was looked at, that we should tax it. And put it into inheritance tax. Then, looking more closely, we realised that there are, if you like, pucker farmers, people who did want to continue keep it in.
The Labour government went beyond the so-called pucker farmers, didn't it? It was too broad a stroke. And I think also, you know, one of our viewers has written and saying, don't spin it as a change of mind. It was changed because of public opinion and the pressure. A lot of this has come down from...
nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing wrong with responding if you think you've made a mistake and you hear then the impact of it. I don't think that's wrong.
It's taken a long time, though. I mean, it's well over a year since this was floated.
A year's gone rather quickly.
Yes, it has.
Yes,
there was no shortage of pressure from the very start to realise it was wrong. I think perhaps Emma Reynolds, as you said, has understood it far greater than her predecessor, Steve Reed. But also, they've come under a lot of pressure from rural backbench Labour MPs who appear to be, let's be frank, backbenchers seem to be running the show in Labour at the moment.
Well, they've got a sandcastle majority. It's withering away. It's 40 MPs, really, the 40 rural Labour MPs that know that they're losing their seats to reform at the next election. They're running scared of reform, and they have been running within the Labour Party trying to get this reversed because, well, how do they go to their constituents in their farming communities and stand up for this ludicrous tax that was put on them?
But that is the strength of our system, of having locally based MPs who can listen, then talk to government and say, we can change.
Well, that's fair enough.
We're going to have to leave it there, but thank you very much to our panel. I suppose we will be touching on this more in the programme.
Hang on.